Hello and welcome to Furious Driving, and guess what? Winter is finally here. It's gone from slightly chilly to a bit nippy in parts of the north, even bordering onto a bit parky. So now it's time for the ubiquitous winter driving tips. I've never done a winter driving tips in all the years I've done YouTube, but it feels like something I probably should do, partly as a PSA to give some general advice, maybe to young drivers, to new drivers, to people who've maybe forgotten things, but also a chance to rant about some of the absolute melons who drive so stupidly in winter. It's a good way to do multiple things. Now on the frosty mornings, this is the problem. There's a couple of things here. First of all, give yourself 2 minutes to scratch it off. Don't just be one of those absolute rhubarb heads who only does this with a credit card and that's all they can see out of. I will judge you, everyone who sees you on the pavement will judge you, and when they see you, the police will judge you and give you several points and a big fine. So do the entire window and the side windows for goodness sake. And secondly, this is kind of a practical tip. If you're starting the car on a day like today, make sure your wipers are turned off because the rubber is going to stick to the glass. Best result is almost unheard of. It'll just move freely and not have a problem. More than likely, you're going to tear the rubber off the blades and then you're going to have a problem because your wipers aren't going to work anymore. Worst case scenario is, of course, you're actually going to break the entire mechanism. The wipers will weld themselves to the glass, the mechanism will start whirring and it's going to snap something under there and you've got a huge repair bill. Same goes for this. For your electric windows, if it's all frozen up, don't hit the button because guess what? That bit of glass is also frozen to the door, and when you push the button down, the mechanism going down and the ice to the window frame are stronger than the bond from the window to the mechanism. And guess what? This window is still held up with gaffer tape after a year when I did this by mistake without thinking. Learn from my mistakes. Okay, now the next thing is, well, when it's getting cold, law of unexpected consequences comes into play, and if you've got a slightly iffy battery, now is the time it's going to stop working. You might have noticed with your phone and that kind of stuff, when the temperature goes down, the battery life goes down as well. It's just simple as that. Batteries don't like the cold weather. So if your car battery is on its last legs, it's going to notice it. So if you already know you've got a bad battery, now is the time to get it changed preemptively before it lets you down. This car, for example, and I'm holding a nice warm cup of tea because it's currently 2 degrees in this room and I've got a heater on next to me and it's making no difference. It's freezing. This has got waiting to go into a brand new Yuasa YBX, does that say? Yeah, YBX 5000, which is going to make it all the world of difference because this has been struggling for starting for absolutely weeks. So get yourself a new battery if you think it's on its last legs. If you're not thinking it's on its last legs, you can do an awful lot worse than getting yourself a jump start pack. This has got many multiple uses because you don't know what's around the corner. First of all, if your battery does unexpectedly die, it means you can save yourself without having to wait for an already overstretched AARAC or whatever other rescue service might be potentially trying to get to you through snow and endless breakdowns. For other people with flat batteries, you can just pop this thing on your car and get going straight away. This is an ACMount model flash jump start pack, lithium mega doodah malarkey, really good things. This is multifunction. It's got a tyre compressor pump thingy in it, so if you turn up at your car's got a flat tyre, then that's really handy. I'll also mention, don't do the low pressure tyre thing because that's an urban myth. It does not improve your tyre adhesion to the snow with modern radial tyres. That's an old thing from the day of cross plies. It doesn't count anymore unless you're going off-roading. It's also got a torch in it. So if you're struggling to get into the car or have to go and abandon the car and need some light, that is also super handy. And it's got USB chargers, so if you are stranded somewhere, you can plug a USB phone charger into it and keep your phone topped up, or a regular torch as well. But I'll just quickly demonstrate this. I've lost a headlight again. Seriously, getting an MOT on this car is like roulette. You roll the dice and hope that everything works on the day. Crying out loud. Oh, yep. Touch the back of the lamp, it comes on again. This car is magical. I need to strip the entire front of this car and redo all the wiring. It's infuriating. Anyway, jump start. Success! So you see how easy the car just started bang straight away with this thing hooked up to it. It'll do it multiple times. There is actually a discount code, so if you want one of these for cheaps, then head over to the link downstairs. But this one, I'm actually going to keep here in the barn because the number of times I've come up here and because the car's been sitting for a couple of weeks and I forgot to stick it on trickle charge or disconnect the battery and the battery has gone down, or I've even found flat tyres here, I'm going to leave this one up here in the barn so I've got something to rescue myself even when it's not snowing. It's just my own incompetence. But yeah, this is super handy, link in the description, and yeah, that'll potentially dig you out of a hole. So as I say, if you want to rescue yourself, get yourself a jump start pack. The cheaper option is to get yourself some jump leads, but that does of course mean you've got to have another car to jump from, so you need to flag down a friendly motorist. And I will say quickly, if you're going to buy some jump leads, buy the best you can afford. These little skipping rope string things are basically useless. You might as well be connecting your car to the next car with red rope licorice. These are basically only good for jump rope and tying up your victims. Jump starting cars is not something they do particularly well unless the car is only like 11.5 volts instead of 13. If it's down to 8, forget it, it'll just get hot and cause a problem. Now, on the subject of preparedness, talking about jump start packs and jump leads and that kind of things, there are a number of other things that's a good idea to keep in the car when you're driving through the winter. And the amount of stuff you put in the car depends on a number of factors, how far you're going, the likelihood of the weather, but you can never really take that for granted. I remember a few years ago, I used to live in Surrey and work in Maidstone, and it suddenly started snowing mid-afternoon with no warning whatsoever. By the time I got to the first motorway, it was already so bad you couldn't see the lanes of the motorway. Came off to the first exit to the next motorway, and it's a gentle little curve off the M20. The car in front of me spun a full 360 and somehow managed to get going back on again in the right direction. By the time we got to Clackett Lane Services, it had taken us about 4 hours. It was dark and the road stopped completely. And I got out and the ice was packed like that thick underneath the wheels of all the cars, and eventually got off the motorway and had to abandon the car, just drove it off into a grass verge and walked the last few miles home. That was a day when I was expecting nothing, so it's kind of a warning from history. I am the warning from history in so many ways. So you need to be thinking, what might I need to save myself? Don't assume someone's going to save you, because they probably won't. So you need to be ready, just basic stuff like an old blanket, ideally tartan, that makes it warmer. Although the fleecy ones are quite warm as well. I can definitely recommend a big fleecy thing from IKEA. That'll be great. Bring it so you can keep warm if you have to snuggle up in the car for a length of time. Take a torch, so if you have to walk in the dark, you can find your way and people can see you walking along the roadside. And make sure you either got spare batteries or it's rechargeable in some way. So either you can charge it off the car's 12-volt sockets, or you can use that jump start pack, or take a small power bank and you can use that to recharge your phone as well, and make sure you've got cables to connect anything you want to recharge, so you can keep yourself powered up. So just for entertainment and for rescue. And because you might be stuck for a long time, I know it sounds a bit old-fashioned, a bit old granddaddy, but take a flask of hot water in the car. You don't even have to make a flask of tea or coffee or anything in the morning. Just take a flask of hot water and a couple of tea bags or a can of coffee or something, just instant dried coffee. You can buy sachets of dried coffee in Starbucks and leave them in the car. You can even maybe take a cup of soup or two, so you're not going to die of starvation if you have to spend the night in the car. Maybe take a book or a magazine as well. Again, old-fashioned, but if you're going to be spending a night in the car unexpectedly, something to entertain yourself when the phone battery finally dies. If you're feeling particularly practical, you can try and avoid that scenario. Grab yourself a tow rope. They're not expensive, just a long length of rope, buy it from Halfords or somewhere. And that means if you do get stuck in a snowdrift or you slide off onto some sticky damp grass and you can't get the car out, if someone turns up and they've got a tow bar, you can tie your car to it. You learn where in your boot lives the little tow hook that you screw into the bumper, because that would be an awkward thing to have to scrabble for in the dark. Go and find out where that is now. Well, when you finish watching this. So if you have to be towed out, you can tow yourself onto that. Someone comes by with a Land Rover or a tractor or something, they can hoik you out and you can say your thank yous and your goodbyes and be on your way. If you want to be really proactive, get yourself a little folding shovel. Go down to your local army surplus shop. Yes, they will be a bit weird in there, but this will be like a 10 or 15 quid purchase. It's tiny, it folds up, it's like a kind of NATO shovel or something. Folds up like that, it can live under the carpet in your boot, and if you have to dig your car out of a snowbank for any reason, you can do that. Right, let's talk some driving advice, because it's horrible outside. Now, first of all, get your car ready. If your car tyres are looking a bit on the edge, like the Alpha here, I'm not going to take this car out into the snow or the ice or anything, partly because it'll dissolve, but also because the tyres on it, although they're perfectly road legal, they are very old, and as tyres get old, they lose their tractability. They stop being as sticky as they used to be, and it means you're more likely to skid. So I would not take this car out in the ice on these tyres. Secondly, tyre technology has evolved enormously. Now, I know people are going to comment right now, back in my day, we didn't have winter tyres or all-season tyres or any of that malarkey. It's a lot of modern tosh. Do you know what people did in the 1960s and 70s? They got stuck, they crashed, and they walked home. It doesn't have to be like that because tyre technology has moved on dramatically. Did you know that below 7 degrees centigrade, your summer tyres stop being particularly effective because they're made of a rubber compound which is designed to be flexible and last a long time in warm temperatures. The warmer it gets, the more easy it is to scrub it and wear it down. So it's designed to last a long time in the heat. When it gets cold, it goes hard and it stops being sticky and it's very easy to skid on hard rubber. It's not nice. Have you ever seen people doing donuts around a car park with tea trays or bread trays on the back wheel so they can do donuts in a front wheel drive car? Exactly that. That's what your tyres become. They become bread trays. This is a bread van, it's wearing bread trays. Disaster waiting to happen. Now, first of all, the most basic thing to do if you're worried about your tyres being old and not having much tread on them, get new tyres. It's as simple as that. But there's multiple ways of doing this. Now, I have done videos about this in the past when it has snowed. It hasn't snowed here yet, so I can't do any snowy driving videos. And I'm filming inside here because it's -1 outside and I don't want to go there. But I will show you some B-roll of stuff. In the past, I have fitted on my rear-wheel drive cars winter tyres in the winter time on a second set of wheels and switch them over come October time or November time when the weather starts to get nasty. Switch them onto the winter tyres. Full winter tyres can handle pretty much anything. You can drive through deep snow in a rear-wheel drive car as if it's a summer's day. Makes no odds. But all-season tyres have come on incredibly in the last couple of years. In the last few years, we've been fitting all-season tyres to Mrs. Furious's Minis. And do you know what? They are unstoppable. I'm going to show you this B-roll in the background now, and I'll link this in the thing above me. This was a time I had an all-wheel drive Seat Leon Estate, the Experience, I believe it was called. And I thought, wow, all-wheel drive, this is going to be so good. The day it snowed, my drive, you've seen on the videos, is quite steep. That Experience with its all-wheel drive could not move off the drive. It was incredible. It was just slithering backwards, all four wheels spinning, and the thing was just going sideways, wouldn't move. Mrs. Furious's Mini, front-wheel drive on, I think they were Michelin Cross Climates. Astonishing. Just got in the car, turned the key, and off I went, straight up that steep hill, like it wasn't even there. I took it to a big empty car park. I drove up a steep hill to get to it in the Mini, and then I drove around in the deep snow, and the only thing that stopped it was the amount of snow building up against the front bumper, and it physically couldn't push anymore because it became a snow plough. So what I'm saying in a very long, convoluted way is, when it comes to changing your tyres next, seriously consider getting some all seasons, because I've got the Mercedes parked outside right now. That's got all seasons on it. When it snows this afternoon, I'm not worried. Because last year when I had the rear wheel drive W204 C-Class, that thing had appropriate tyres on it and it snowed and I took it out and wanted to do skids in it. It wouldn't skid, it just drove in big circles. And for Hippo the Freelander, that's got Falcon all-season, all-terrain tyres. So no matter how bad the weather gets, that thing's getting through. So yes, get yourself some good tyres, then chances are you won't get stuck. And if you are worried about being stuck and having nothing to eat, just chuck a few sort of long life, non-perishable kind of foods in the boot. Maybe some bags of crisps or some bars or that kind of stuff that will just last for months. And when the winter's over, if you've not eaten them and not been stuck, just take them in your packed lunch. And also, if you want a secret tip for hiding some food that your passengers aren't going to find, get yourself an old tax disc holder, and that is the perfect place for hiding a digestive biscuit. Don't though, hide a chocolate hobnob in there, because the heat from the demisters will melt it and it'll run down inside the car. Horrible. Let's now talk about lights, because it does rather depressingly seem that an awful lot of people have got no idea how to use them anymore. Not you, obviously I know you do, but you might know someone who doesn't, and maybe show them this video as a gentle reminder. Now, first of all, your actual ordinary basic just lights. I was so angry the other day. I was driving up the M11, really quite thick fog but quite light, and because people just rely on their stupid automatic lights these days, they don't realise they're not having any lights on. They've just got the little LED glowy thing at the front, and the daylight running lights are pointless because they don't show anything at the back. And everyone's just driving in white and grey cars with no lights showing at all on the back, and they're invisible until you get close to them. Because automatic lights don't know when it's foggy. They know when it's dark, that's fair enough, but they don't know when it's foggy because it's still bright enough for them not to realise there's anything going on. So if it's even slightly horrible outside, if it's rainy, foggy, misty, if it's snowing, use the ordinary proper manual switch and turn your lights to on. It's just mind-blowing how simple a thing is that can stop you being driven into by somebody. Secondly, fog lights. Fog light etiquette and the law is also massively misunderstood. A lot of people seem to think the moment it's vaguely inclement, you need to put your fog lights on. That is not the case. Fog lights, when you're behind someone, are like having main beam headlights in red shining straight in your eyes. They're so distracting. The rule is, if you can no longer see 100 meters in front of you, which is really quite close, then you put your fog lights on. The point of them is that someone's coming up behind you from a distance, they can see you from a way away. They can take appropriate action to not drive into you. That is the entire point of them. Once someone is behind you, you don't need them on anymore. Be kind, be courteous, turn your fog lights off. What is the most, or frankly, rude thing I've had done, I'm driving behind someone, not tailgating, just sensible length, and someone has put their fog lights on because it's got a bit misty. I know you're there. You don't need your fog lights on to tell me you're there. I've been following you for 5 miles. The point of it is that someone who doesn't know you're there can see you a long way away. Don't put them on when you're just driving along with people behind you. It's more likely to cause an accident because people just get fixated on that light. They follow the light, don't look around so they can't see what's happening. And also, it's brighter than your brake lights. So when you brake, the person behind you can't see you braking. So you're more likely to have a crash by having your fog lights on than not. So please, only turn them on when the visibility is very, very, very reduced, 100 meters. I think like 3 bus lengths of visibility. If you can see further than that, you don't need your fog lights on, just your ordinary lights, please. Right, now we get to actually driving, and inside the car, there's a couple of preparatory things more you can do. Mostly it's like painting a wall or a car. It's mostly about preparation rather than actually doing the thing. You want to make sure you can see out. As I mentioned on the beginning of this video, don't just scratch a letterbox, clear the entire window. But also at the same time, when you're scratching the snow off the windscreen, do your lights as well so people can see you and you can see where you're going. And also, new LED lights don't really make any heat, so they're not going to melt the snow off the front like they used to in the old days. So if you're doing a long drive in snow, you might actually have to stop and scratch the snow off your lights again mid-journey because the snow will build up and not melt. And don't forget to scrape the snow off your bonnet so it doesn't whip over your windscreen and you're constantly being blinded by it, and off your roof so the same thing doesn't happen to the car behind. Just courteous, really, isn't it? It sounds so obvious, but I see it all the time, so I know people don't know this, so maybe you know this already, but leave this video playing somewhere where someone else will see it. Just a thought. Okay, now you're inside the car, you want to see out, so make sure you can see out. You can get the little spongy wiper demister pad, so if your car does mist up, you can wipe it on the way and clear out. That's one solution. Easier to make it not mist up in the first place. If it's an older car that does get prone to misting up, you can buy demister pads, so like little packets of silica that you can leave in the car overnight, and that will absorb the moisture and it's less likely to mist up as badly. Those aren't a huge amount of money, but if you want to really cheap out, and I've done this a couple of times myself, all the little silica gel packs you get in literally everything you buy these days, save them. Find a cloth bag of some kind, a sunglasses bag, or if you go to nice hotels ever, they give you the free slippers in a cloth bag. Fill that with those little silica gels, leave it in the car. That does the same job. Perfect. And the car will mist up less. Because seeing out is key to being safe. I'm amazed, I'm genuinely shocked that I still see cars misted up today in the 21st century. There's no need for it. If you've got air conditioning in your car, it's not just for summertime, it's a dehumidifier that sucks the moisture out of the air. Just turn that on. In the old days, people didn't like to run their aircon because it used so much more fuel. These days it's negligible, like you barely even notice it. I think Mythbusters did a thing where it used the same amount of fuel as opening a window. If you've got a car new enough to have an app, like an EV of some kind, that lets you preheat it, then great, do that. That makes the car a lot more easier and safer to get going first thing. Now we come to actually driving. Now, all the advice you read on all the websites and the magazines and everything like that is always, if it's terrible weather outside, don't drive. Yeah, that's kind of mostly true because obviously you don't want to be causing a problem for everyone else and being involved in the problem. But my advice is slightly opposite in that if it's quiet out and it is snowing and you've not driven in snow before, go and drive in the snow. Because one day you're going to have to, and you don't want it to be your first time when it's stressful. If it's a weekend and it's mid-morning and it's quiet and it's snowing, just get out there, have a little drive around and just see what it's like. So you know what you're going to be experiencing one day when you have to do it for real and it's nasty. Actors don't jump on stage for the first opening night having never had a rehearsal. Do the same thing with driving in the snow and the ice. And the key to driving in the snow and the ice and the terrible conditions is really like a one-sentence answer. Just go gently. If you're in a manual car, maybe start in second gear if it's really slippery. If you're in an automatic, if you can have a winter mode on it, push that and that'll do the same thing automatically for you. Normally my advice for driving an automatic in the snow is go and buy a manual because you've got so much more control. But gentle inputs. If you've seen the film Paul, where Paul the alien is driving the RV, he's jerking and swerving all over the place. Exactly that, gentle inputs, gentle inputs. The key thing you're trying to do is not break traction, so accelerate gently, turn gently, brake gently. If you've got a four-wheel drive of some kind and you've only got summer tyres on it, don't be fooled into thinking you've got more traction than everyone else, because you haven't. You might get off the line more easily, but it doesn't turn easier and it doesn't stop easier. And because a big SUV 4x4 thing is significantly heavier, it's going to have more momentum going in a straight line. When the road goes that way, you're going to go in a straight line. If you're driving an EV, it's going to be an awful lot heavier. Don't forget, EVs tend to be 2, maybe 3 times as heavy as an ICE equivalent. And that's going to have a serious effect in your momentum and the direction of travel the car wants to go in because of physics. You need to be going even slower for corners, leaving even more space in front of you for stopping. And when it comes to hills, you need to be planning ahead. If you think you might not be able to stop at the bottom, wait till everyone's out the way before you start going down the hill. I've been down a hill before where I've had to drive into a curb and let the car just bounce on and off the curb all the way down because it was sheet ice, and that was the only way of stopping the car, just letting the car nudge into the curb on and off. And if you're going up a hill, think of it like a level crossing. You know how you don't go onto a level crossing until you can get off the other side so you don't get trapped? If other cars are struggling to get up a hill ahead of you, then wait till everyone's clear, then take a little run up and don't stop, because stopping on the hill is going to be really hard. So get a nice smooth move, don't change gear. If you feel like you need to change gear in a manual, don't. Just leave it in the gear, because the moment you lift off and dip the clutch and break your traction, that's when the car's going to lose traction and start slowing down and lose its ability to move. Then you're going to stop and have to start over again. And honestly, reversing down a hill on ice is no fun, but the key thing is don't stop. Slammed Mazda. Oh, it's a Sunny. Sorry, it's not a Mazda 323, it's a Nissan Sunny. Oh, how cool is that? Honestly, the driving part of all the winter driving type stuff is the easiest part of it. The only other thing is water. If you've watched all the cars getting destroyed in flood videos, which are very entertaining, you don't want to be one of them, because you basically look an idiot. The key to driving through floods is, first of all, have an idea of how high the air intake is on your car. Some cars are really down low. If you've got a BMW, just don't even chance it. They're really low generally on BMWs. But if you've got to drive through a flood, drive in the middle of the road. That's generally the highest part of the tarmac, so you're less likely to be driving in deeper water. If you drive on the edges, you'll be driving in slightly deeper water, more chance of sucking water into the air intake. Drive in, go a little bit more than walking pace. So you build a bit of a bow wave which has got an air pocket behind it around your radiator, and go at a nice steady slow speed. Slow and steady wins the race again. The key to winter driving is basically always just go steady. So get into the water, drive at a steady speed, don't stop, don't lift your foot off the accelerator. If you can hold the car in a low gear so you're revving high but going slow, so you've always got the exhaust pipe being cleared by the gas coming out of it, then you generally should be okay, as long as the water doesn't suddenly become very deep. If you can possibly watch another car go through first and see an idea of how deep it is, that's always quite handy. The B-roll I'm showing you right now is me driving through a huge flood in my W204 Mercedes. That's one of my favourite cars I've ever had. It was basically indestructible. This was very deep water. One of my friends actually did write off his car driving through this exact same flood on this exact same day. And when the car was eventually rescued, the water had been above the level of the seats. So it kind of shows how deep it actually was. Frightening. But the 204 went through because bow wave, air pocket, slow and steady, didn't stop. That's the key. Right, so I hope there's been some useful advice. I know it sounds like sucking eggs entirely through this video. If you're watching this channel, chances are you've got a pretty good idea what you should be doing anyway. But maybe if you know someone who's new to driving, if you've maybe got a friend or relative who does make a few silly mistakes, maybe let them watch this, and they'll take something away from it as well. Anyway, thank you for watching. Drive safe out there, and I hope you get to enjoy the snow, make a snowman, go sledging, play snowballs. And I'll see you again very soon in another video when hopefully it's warm enough for me to do some spannering on a car outside, or take something interesting for a test drive. Thank you for watching, like, subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.